come this side so you can see them. So we have got Joel Collins, who is an executive producer for Doctor Who at Bad Wolves, so make some noise. We have got Dylan Holmes Williams, who directed 73 Yards. Please make some noise for him as well. Okay, we've got Pam Downe, who is the costume designer on this season of Doctor Who. Needs no introduction, but she stars in the show as Kate Lethbridge Stewart. Please give her a welcome. It's Jemma Redgrave! Thank you. Wow. Hi guys, how are we? You've got microphones and water, which we're going to open. Q&A done. All right. Hi, everybody. How are we? Hello. Hello. I'm going to go straight in with the questions because I do want these guys to have an opportunity to ask as well. So, Dylan, I'm going to start with you. That was quite an episode. Am I right in thinking that was your first time on working with Doctor Who as well?
It was, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, make some noise. He's also known for working on shows like Apple TV's Servant and short films like Stilts and The Devil's Harmony. How was it working on Doctor Who?
Oh, it was amazing. It's such an amazing kind of playground that you're given. And Joel, the producer, was one of the first people I met, and he kind of said, you know, what's so cool about this show is it's, you know, an anthology, and so in some senses you have a kind of somewhat of a free rein to do exciting things and put your own look on it, and you know, you're not just sort of slotting into a broader story in some senses. So yeah, so it was an amazing experience, and the whole team were incredible to work with. So
awesome. Jemma, so you've worked on some incredible productions. Yeah, go on, one more round of applause. Jemma, you've worked on some incredible productions, so what keeps you coming back to Doctor Who?
Everything. I mean, the writers are some of the greatest writers who are working today. Chris Chibnall wrote my very first episode in 2012, and I've worked with so many wonderful writers, and to work with Russell is, I mean, it's an honour and a privilege. And some of the greatest actors come into Doctor Who, and I am so lucky to have got that one episode in 2012 and to have kept coming back, and I haven't messed it up yet. I hope I didn't last time, so maybe there'll be more, I don't know.
Hope so. All right, Pam, let's talk about some of these costumes, because the characters have got so many distinct looks, you know, Ruby through the years, and the pub goers, as well as Roger at William as well. Can you talk to us about the process? Because obviously this is a different time span that you were doing this time in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it was contemporary compared to some of the other ones that we had done. I mean, the biggest challenge was obviously the aging of Ruby. Ruby's 19, you know, and to try and make her look older was a huge challenge. And so how I approached it was just to try and use elements of sort of hero costume, if you like, which are her little skirts. That's a cross between a skirt and shorts, but people don't know. You know, that she wears a lot, which are checked. And I just wanted to use the checks again, you know, and we lengthened the skirts. We sort of did a few things just to try and keep the feel of Ruby, but just make her look a little bit more mature. But that really was a challenge, definitely.
Can I just say, I'm not too far from 40, maybe like 4 years away, and I'm really glad Ruby looked like that at 40. It just made me feel comforting, do you know what I mean? It was great. I was like, yes! Joel, hello. This episode is quite unique to Doctor Who, as we rarely see the Doctor. I mean, we've had Doctor Light episodes before, of course, but how do you still make Doctor Who feel like Doctor Who without Doctor Who in the episode?
I mean, that's, in some senses, that's a question for everyone in the audience who will hopefully be fans of Doctor Who and will know how it feels linked. But for me, the simplest way to see this as part of the world that I'm in right now, the Whoverse that I'm involved in, is the fact that Russell wrote it, understands it intimately. It's quite human themes in extraordinary spaces, places, and times, and so that's, to me, the Doctor Who-ness of it. The themes are quite difficult for Ruby to deal with what she goes through, which, again, thematically within the world of Who is something that sticks. But ultimately, it's written by Russell. He's a genius. He loves Doctor Who. He knows it intimately. So I guess it is Doctor Who because it's written by the man.
Yeah, very right. Good answer. Joel, I always want to ask you, 73 yards is very precise. Ridiculously, to be honest with you. How important was it to be accurate with the distance, and how was that brought to life on set?
Well, you'll all probably learn in the kind of the various things that will come out after the show, but Russell, while writing the script, wanted to work out how you couldn't see someone to tell that story of her. And he walked Swansea Pier, which has 3-foot kind of metal railings, yards. And he walked down the pier until he found a point where he couldn't see someone. He was watching and he just couldn't. It was too obscured to be able to really focus and see that person. So, but you could still see what they were doing, but you couldn't see them. So he wrote it in the script. And obviously, I mean, I'll pass it over to Dylan ultimately, because he wrote it in the script and then we read it. And so he'd worked out 73 yards based on his own calculations about obscuring something that you could never ever get to. And then obviously we set about trying to prove him wrong, to see whether it's just to test it. And Dylan, I mean, maybe I'll pass that on over to you.
Yeah. So then we, in pre-production, did a bunch of kind of camera tests where we took Hilary, who's brilliantly plays the old woman, up onto a kind of little hill that just happened to be near the studio on this, and we just tried out lots of different lenses and lots of different distances, because we thought maybe 73 yards isn't really the best representation of 73 yards, but of course Russell was bang on. It was basically 73 yards. That was the perfect distance, and once we kind of established that, we established our lens, and then on set it was just a case of basically match cutting across all of our shots, all of those POV shots, so we'd kind of get an overlay up of the correct size of the woman and make sure that she kind of looked like that every time. But yeah, like Joel says, it was kind of Russell's genius and just ability to.
As a director, obviously, he wanted to go in close.
Naturally, yeah. But and I saw Russell comes on the podcast quite a bit, and he said you can't actually make out someone's face at 73 yards as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, like Joel says, I was sort of skeptical of whether that might make you feel too removed from the character or whatever. And I sort of voiced that to Russell, and he was like, just trust me, just do it, and do the test and see how it feels. And of course he was right. Yeah.
Of course he was. I also want to know how tricky it was, because you were in multiple different places. To do 73 yards, was there any places that were like, this is just going to be a bit of a bother?
No, I mean, we kind of would choose locations specifically because they were within the correct range. But yeah, that does become a bit of an issue, because obviously it just means you have to have such a long location, which feels quite weird. So often you're looking for locations that are within a confined space, or you're shooting into a kind of 90 degree space or 180 degree space, but really you're looking for a 360-degree space. So an amazing location where you're filming Millie that looks really great, but then all the way in the other direction, another amazing location. And I think I'm right in saying all of the POVs you see are like true POVs from Millie at that moment. There's no cheats happening there. So that was a difficulty in the location scouting, finding those two elements.
Well, you nailed it. Brilliant. Jemma, I'm going to come back to you. Your character turns in this episode, which is something we've not seen her do many times throughout the show's history. Was that quite fun to play? And what was your experience? Just almost, just not being the Kate that we know and having to change direction.
Yes, you have to imagine. You have to create an imaginative moment for yourself in that phone call. That something, you hear something, absolutely the worst thing in the world. And the worst thing is connected to Millie. And that's what creates that moment. And it's horrible. It's absolutely, it's awful to see on screen, because that experience of watching people just walk away from you, there's some sort of deep fear that we have about people knowing something maybe, or that we don't have any control over maybe, I don't know. But it's chilling, I think. It's absolutely awful. It's like a nightmare really, isn't it? And I really enjoyed it.
And the evil laugh to go with it. And do you remember what you told yourself in that moment?
No, I don't. I just remember thinking that if it's the worst thing in the world, it must be the most frightening thing in the world. And I think that everybody responds to fear in a different way, and Kate's response to fear, she goes very cold and she goes into action. And Gwilym's response is very interesting, because the worst fear in the world is something about that he can't control, and he just gets out of it.
Exit, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a different response from each person, slightly different response from each person, which is, yeah.
I mean, do you know what she says? Does anyone know what she says?
Do you want me to whisper it to somebody in the audience?
Yes. And then we'll run out.
I just worry about the chaos.
I'm going to find out, all right, at some point. So Pam, we don't ever learn what this old lady's saying, but how much of her mysteriousness came to play when you were designing her costume?
I think we sort of came to the point where we wanted her in black. I think that might have been written into the script, I can't remember exactly, it was a while ago. But the key was to sort of make her timeless. So I sort of I ended up referencing sort of elderly women, elderly sort of Mediterranean Catholic women, who often wore black. And at one point we were going to, when we needed to cover her face, or her hair, so I had all these ideas of putting scarves on, and then that went away because I think we ended up thinking that the hair was quite a good image for her. So yeah, it was just trying to sort of make her look not imperial in any way, but kind of timeless, I think. So we couldn't quite work out what it was about her.
What year she belonged in.
Yeah, what year she belongs in, or where she's come from, but not to look too weird at the same time. It's weird enough that she's 75 years all the time.
But even that, the fact that we can't
73
particularly see 73. Even the fact that you can't really particularly see her. So even that would have been a challenge for costume, right? Because I guess there might be some details that we might not have been able to see.
Well, we always knew there was going to be no detail, so it was all just about the silhouette. We wanted a skirt, so it's just about the silhouette and the hair, that white hair against the black was quite.
Everything's tested so much. The decisions we make are so interrogated and explored and camera tested. Everything we do on the show is explored. So whatever Pam and the makeup team did with the hair and the costume would have been filmed by Dylan, assessed, we would have seen. Sometimes something's too sharp or give something away, you know, so we explore it.
Yeah, and we also, on the hair for the old woman, for the nighttime scenes, the cinematographer, Sam Kerr, had this stroke of genius idea to basically put a very, very, very small and powerful light behind her on a little stand. So her body is actually covering the light itself, but we're essentially backlighting her hair, so it just has this sort of slightly creepy effect, I guess.
It worked, I was creeped out. But Dylan, you filmed the whole episode, or not the whole episode, but you filmed the episode on the Welsh coastline in February. Wales is beautiful, and I've been there, it's gorgeous, but it looks really cold. So what was that like filming?
Yeah, no, it was amazing. We got so incredibly lucky.
Apart from the day I was filming, when it rained all day.
No, it's absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely true. So most of the time, most of our exteriors, you know, as you might expect in January in Swansea or Cardiff or wherever it was, you might get a bit of rain, particularly on Gemma's Day, exactly. But then on this one week when we were on the coast, it was just sunny, like almost the entire time, and especially when Shooty was there. And then when Shooty kind of disappears, it was like this haze kind of came in off the coast, and it became grey. It was really uncanny.
Really?
The weather was kind of responding to the narrative. Yeah.
It was remarkable because the recce day, I don't think I've ever seen rain like it. We could hardly make it to the cliff edge, and then the roof caved. I mean, the roof just like pouring with water, and we were like, oh. Is this what it's going to be like?
Be honest, was you a little bit creeped out? Just a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah, very creepy. But it was also very, very cold, and so I think Millie should get a lot of credit. She was such a trooper, because obviously in the script calls for her to be in inappropriate clothing, and so
Exactly.
sometimes when you see her a bit cold, you know, we obviously looked after her as best we could, but I think there was an element to which that was genuine.
I want to come back to you, Pam, about that, because how much inspiration do you take from costume? Because I do like the fact that, I mean, she could have done with a bigger coat, but, you know, Millie doesn't wear that, does she? You know, her character's not.
Well, obviously it's scripted that she's inappropriately dressed. You know, that is there. But nevertheless, I just think that the Ruby would wear that no matter, even if she knew it was going to be sort of cold. That's her look, basically. But she was absolutely freezing. I mean, as Dylan was saying, it was lovely weather, but it was cold. And she was a real trooper.
It's amazing. I mean, look, what we've just seen, she shines on screen.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
And also this was her first ever thing, you know, that she filmed on the show. So it's unbelievable that she put in this powerhouse performance in those conditions and with all the pressure, and yeah, I just think she absolutely carries the episode, and she's what makes it good.
She does indeed. Well done, Millie. Joel, I'm going to come back to you, because Wales is important for Bad Wolf. The production company is based there. How important was it filming this episode?
Well, Russell wanted to make a kind of, we called it was different Welsh folk horror. We called it sometimes a production of Welsh coast, because we knew we had to get to the coast, and we knew what that meant midwinter. And Bad Wolf obviously is headquartered in Wales. I've been there with them 7 years, and they are an amazing company to bring the young people of Wales into the industry. They've got so Russell did an amazing thing writing a script which we could enjoy themes and locations a bit more than you might, trying to hide them, to say it's London or New York or whatever you're saying Wales is at that point. It was really fun to use Wales as the backdrop to launch this episode. But Bad Wolf itself, led by Jane, who commissioned the show back in 2004, with Russell obviously at the helm, and Julie Gardner and Phil Collinson, what they've done in Wales is outstanding, and I've loved being there, doing the tours of the studio and the outreach to schools and young people, and loads of people over the 7 years have come from schools and colleges and are now working with us. They've understood the pathway to get into TV, and so it's quite an amazing thing. So it's really lovely to round it by making an episode that's kind of Welsh folk horror. But yeah, Bad Wolf is very, very focused on regeneration of the Welsh kind of young people into and training into the TV industry.
Love that. Dylan, so there's a brief shot of Millie on a moving train. Let's actually take a clip of Unleashed from Unleashed. Have a look at that. Can you imagine being at the train station and seeing that? What? That was chaos. What was that like? What was that like?
Yeah, really, really fun. Like whenever you get to kind of go out onto location, it kind of has a very different feel, obviously, to filming in the studio. So, and you know, to film on a moving train is obviously that to the nth degree. Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit tense because I think there's maybe four shots, and we had maybe 30 minutes, something like that, to get it. So it was kind of like, but that's, you know, we had the camera operator on a very kind of agile system, so it was all relatively straightforward in the end. Yeah.
And they did it in 73 seconds, didn't they?
Exactly. And the woman was really in those fields, you know, she wasn't.
That was a joke in case you missed it. Joel, I actually want to ask you, because there are some big action scenes with stunts that were filmed on location. Can you talk us through that? Because that's quite a big job to kind of film everyone and make sure they're not, you know, they're safe and not scare the people of Cardiff at the same time.
We do go on location and do, on some of the episodes, do quite big action things. And obviously, one of the big concerns if you see police or military or anything like that, led by Jemma, which is terrifying. When you see that, when the public see it, it can be scary. So we close roads and we manage roads, and we have lots of stewards, and we have a hotline with the police, so the police are all aware, because people phone up the police, or they might do, and so the police are, it's filming. So it's very well managed. It has to be, because it obviously, any time you see an explosion or you see a policeman or a soldier with a gun or something like that, or someone looking really suspicious, even you know, it could alert people. So yeah, it's very well managed.
I'm going to ask all of you, actually. I'll start with Jemma. I'm going to ask you, what are the challenges of filming in public? Have you guys got any stories that you can share with us?
The 50th in Trafalgar Square with Matt Smith hanging from the TARDIS. There was a huge cherry picker, and he was very safe, but he was hanging in midair. And I think about 10 minutes after we got there, I looked over to a barrier, and there was somebody standing with a Tom Baker scarf. It took something like 10 minutes, and by the time the cameras rolled, the crowd had to be sort of managed, because otherwise they would be seen. And it was thrilling. It was the closest thing acting for me has ever got to rock stardom. That was full-on rock star. But yes, I think there was a moment when Matt and Stephen Moffat were on a bench somewhere in Cardiff discussing a scene that was going to be shot later that day, and somebody came up with an iPhone and a photograph on social media of the two of them sitting on that bench having that conversation while they were having it. It can be quite challenging, and the day that we filmed, there was a lot of journalists, I think, turned up, and photographers, and then people wearing costumes. It happens very quickly, and you have to find a way to manage that politely, and to continue filming.
I can't imagine. I'm asking all of you the same question, so yeah.
I don't have anything.
No, nothing. And what about you, Joel?
I think you should. I think Dylan gets it.
Oh, yeah, no, just
take it away.
Yeah, no, just on the day we were filming with Jemma and Millie in Newport, we had about 20 minutes to get the final shot of the day that we really needed. I think it was the big kind of wide shot you see when Millie smashes the cup right at the end of the scene. Two members of the press basically came and stood sort of in our shot, and we sort of needed them to leave in order to get the shot. So I as politely as I could, kind of went up and basically ended up begging, just in that manic way that directors can do, you know, when they really need something to happen. And fair enough to them, they did in fact leave the shot, so we got the shot.
Amazing, good. So Pam, the Doctor wears a really bright jacket in this episode. I hear this is one of your favourite pieces, is that correct?
It wasn't originally. It was interesting. Russell had written in the script, from what I remember, that he wore a yellow coat. And we always wanted to make his outfits a bit practical. And especially here in Wales, the idea is he's sort of dressed for a hike a little bit, or you know, he's definitely dressed for the weather. And so I had this, obviously there's the idea of the yellow, and then I thought, well, let's just put him in a duffel coat. So then we came up with the yellow duffel coat. And I was thinking, the Doctor in a yellow duffel coat, and actually I think it worked, because it did what we wanted, which was to make it look kind of practical. But it was still a little bit doctory at the same time because the colour popped. And also, I was very mindful of the landscape that we were going to be in. So we're obviously in a lot of green, this sort of soft green landscape. And so the colours do pop. I mean, it pops a lot here. But
can I just say, Pam is just been so amazing, considering, you know, you've got the challenge of what the audience have seen, not just in this episode, but the other episodes, where he's so amazingly dressed every episode. And then he can almost, you know, things change. And what you've done, and I just like, you know, is just sublime. And it carries on, and it carries on. And
yeah, absolutely. The Doctor looks great, right? The Doctor looks great.
And everybody looks great.
I agree, thank you. So Dylan,
can I just close out something? I mean, Shooty can wear a bin bag, and one day he will.
And I know, and when you put the bin bag on it, we said no.
Yeah, no, he'll wear a bin bag really well. All we've got to do is get Russell to write a punk version, which is about to happen. That's not necessarily happening, by the way. But yeah, you know what I mean. But I can put him in anything, and he owns it. And there's not many people that can do that. So, all credit to him too.
Love that. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so Dylan, as I mentioned, your first time directing Doctor Who. How much research into the history of the show did you do, and how much did that influence you directing?
I think the episode that always really stood out for me, particularly in relation to this episode, is Blink. Which is just an astonishing piece of TV. That one was in my mind, I guess. That was the primary influence, I would say.
It's a good influence, to be fair. Okay, so Joel, this is the first full season with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Millie as the companion. Talk to us about creating those characters and coming up with their identities.
Well, it was really interesting meeting Ncuti. He had blonde hair from Barbie when we met him. And it was a clandestine meeting in London where Russell, Jane, Phil Collinson and myself met him in a hotel. And I kind of just was like, oh my God, he's the Doctor, he's amazing. And I thought, well, what's this going to be like? And obviously we had a brilliant chat, and he came in from a different entrance. We didn't want anyone seeing us. Russell can be seen. Knowing that I've been with him 2.5 years, he can be seen, you know, by people. So we were very careful. And on his first day, when he arrived, he just embodied the Doctor. He had this energy and this charisma. And Millie also, like Dylan said, that 73 Yards was her first entry into the show, and she became Ruby. So it's really hard, because you read Russell's scripts and they're very prescriptive for all of us. They're full of challenges and they're full of kind of complexities, but they're also really clear for all the creative teams and cast, because he's so clear in the way he writes. He writes the first draft is almost like a final draft. I've never seen anything like it. It's quite amazing. And so the kind of characters are there, and then he, I'm sure, he moderates, because I couldn't work it out. I said, how did you, it's almost like you knew he was going to be the Doctor, but it just gelled. It wasn't like them finding themselves. They just went on set, and the pages went out, the words came out of their mouths, and I was like, it's like chemistry that I didn't understand, but to be honest with you, because it didn't feel like they discovered it, they found it. Ncuti had his Doctor voice, day one, and it was amazing. And Millie is Ruby. So it was just a pleasure to see, to be honest.
And for us as well, that was brilliant. All right, so guys, we've got some questions from you guys. Thank you for getting these over to us. I'm going to start with Samuel Tiberius, who is asking Gemma, how would you say that Ruby differs from other companions you've met?
It's hard to put it into words. It's a feeling that I got on the first, because it was her first episode, and she carried it, and she carries it so beautifully. But I thought about, I think she's the only person with maternal feelings for, and that is sort of in the script. But she was 19 when we did that episode, and it was a huge thing to step up, and because the Doctor's hardly there, he's bookends it, and I thought, I just thought, I hats off to you. At 19, you come with such poise and so brilliant, but I did feel so sort of warm and these very maternal feelings, and I've not felt that in the part before, so that's what I would say about that.
It's a great question. Okay, I've got one from Jordan Emery, who's asking Pam, what thought went into the woman 73 yards away? Is the question. Sorry? Oh, repeat the question, yes. So Jordan's asking, what thought went into the woman 73 yards away?
Well, I kind of answered that a little bit already.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. I think so just to summarise again, it was
for the
Something
costume.
completely different.
No, it was just, it's just the timelessness was the main thing, and the silhouette, and to just, it's just trying to find something and keep guessing. You have to keep guessing, which was why it had to be black, I think, and why it had to be indistinct. I think that was the main thing.
Yeah, thank you. Taran Shah asks all of you, Millie Gibson led this episode. What were you most impressed with by her performance? So I think, Gemma, you've kind of answered that to an extent, but you can add, of course. No, that's your answer. It was a good one, to be fair. So for the rest of you, what for you impressed you most about Millie Gibson's performance?
I think Millie just has this incredible deep well of emotion that can kind of come to the surface really sort of at her fingertips, and she doesn't really struggle with that, and it's just that, and then also she just has such a clear identity, I guess, as an actor. You just feel her personality in her performance, and I think that's rare.
Yes, I mean, you can see it on screen. You can see what she's able to do, and what she was able to do on her early weeks on the show. And I guess watching her do that, it was what impressed us, because we didn't know at that point how all of this was going to play out. You know, we have the pages and we have the cast, but she just fell in, walked into it, embodied Ruby, had the emotion. Obviously, we discuss the show and the arc of the character, because this is episode 4, but was shot earlier in the run. But yeah, it was just an impressive performance. I mean, it's great.
I just think she was incredibly brave. I mean, what Jemma was saying, she was 19, and this is massive. It was a massive role for her, and it comes with added pressure. There's a lot of legacy on Doctor in previous companions. So I just think she was just incredibly brave.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll get into the next one. Sun Lee is asking Dylan, how did you get introduced to Doctor Who?
In terms of like how was I aware of it, or introduced in terms of this?
I think maybe how he was introduced to Doctor Who, the brand in general, maybe not
Brand
the
in
job,
general.
I think.
Well,
I hope that's correct.
I'll answer both. I mean, basically, Doctor Who, has always been something I've been, aware of growing up. Obviously, massive deal, and I used to watch it with my dad when I was growing up, and like I say, like there's certain particular episodes that like I absolutely adored, like Blink, and yeah, just in terms of the job, like I'd done this other show that you mentioned earlier, and I just read the script, and it's like Joel has said, and everyone said, it's just such incredible writing, and it just kind of has this kind of mystery and this like enigmatic quality, and Russell's just so good at that, and it just kind of tugs you along. And so as soon as I read it, I just really, really, really wanted to direct it. So I like begged Joel and the other execs to let me, and luckily they said yes.
Perfect, all right. So I've got a question from Christopher Villa for Pam. The 15th Doctor has had quite a variety of outfits. Which one is your favourite?
From all that you've seen so far?
Yeah, let's do 4 episodes.
Well, I am quite fond of the 60s outfit. I mean, I think with that whole 60s episode, because there were kind of different elements to it. Ruby and the Doctor both had quite kind of heightened outfits. It's like the TARDIS dressed them. Whereas the Beatles wore, outfits that were very much more sort of downbeat, which was much more accurate to what they actually wore in the time. And then we had Jinx wearing these very theatrical outfits. But that outfit that we did for Shooty, I think he really enjoyed it, and that made me like it even more. I think it was, he wore it well, and I'm quite proud of that one.
Like you said, he can literally wear a big bag. Like literally, everything looks good on him. Okay, so
I'm putting him in a big bag, Pam. No.
All right, so this is a really good one for all of you. Brendan Clark has asked everyone, if you had a TARDIS for one trip.
The Jazz Age, New York.
I was going to say 1930s New York. Yeah.
I stole that answer.
From where? But I don't think.
1930s.
But I agree, but it has to be New York. Yeah.
New York,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm with you. I want to do the costumes.
Speakeasies.
Yeah, so you two are going to the same place, lovely. Dylan and Joel, what about you?
To be honest, we've just wrapped season 2, and we had a wrap party last night, which was amazing. And come on. And I'm worried that if I say anything, it'll be a spoiler. So I almost can't say anything. Because you just don't know. I might accidentally.
So if you had one trip in the TARDIS,
But what happens if I...
where are you going?
But go to Dylan first.
Yeah, you can separate fact from fiction in your mind whilst Dylan's talking.
I don't know if I can.
No, why don't you say
I'd go to the Beatles era, actually. I'm a huge Beatles fan, so...
Sorry, I thought you said Ibiza.
Well, right,
It's just
I would.
not good enough
I'd be
to
there.
go on EasyJet to Ibiza.
So you'd go to the Beatles era?
yeah, I was jealous about not getting to direct that episode. It was amazing, yeah.
That's a good one. All right, guys, thank you so much for your questions. We could do this all evening, but that's actually all we've got time for, so thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to our panel for sharing almost all of the Doctor Who insights. Obviously, the fans here, we've been getting an insight like this is incredible because, we don't get to do this often, so thank you. Thank you to the audience as well. Your questions are amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
They were brilliant. And thank you for coming along and just, being part of the Doctor Who community. Before you leave us though, can we capture this moment and take a little photo with the audience and the panel? Is that all right? Lovely. So I think, we've got a photographer right on time. Perfect. So we're going to come and stand in front of you guys, and then you're going to be behind us. Lovely. I'll put my mic down. Thank you so much, guys. All right. We have got a conference now. Everybody get home safely. And once again, can we thank the incredible panel, Jemma Redgrave,